Oh, come on. I'm liking these burns. Look, your one was better.
It was. And we're live.
All right, we're live on the internet and Brighton and around the world. If you'd like to join me for a cup here. We don't have any minutes to do an extraordinary meeting, which for anyone who's interested online just means that it's not a scheduled meeting. We have one apology for early departure from Yanni, who has a very bad tooth. Anything else? Anybody else?
Until at 6:30.
We'll be gone by
it should be done by then, but Celeste, if we are over schedule, yeah, all right. I'm sure that will be done. Would someone like to move Yanni's apology? All those in aye. It's carried. Right.
So that's Kelly and Alex.
Oh, I'll give it to Greg.
Kelly and Greg.
Kelly and Greg. All right. Declarations of interest. So I have an interest in Premier Geek Judo Club. I'm a member, my wife's on the committee, so I won't, if we are discussing that, I won't take any part in voting or discussion.
We've declared an interest. Can I just have the number
Yep,
of
okay.
the application? I apologise.
Mr. Chair, I think you should prove it.
Prove what?
You're a member of the Judo Club.
Why are you volunteering? So that's 000067202.
Thank you.
I think Greg and I have a conflict on
67199,
which is Burwood Pegasus Community Watch. I'm a committee member and
I remember.
he's a member.
Any others? Okay.
So yeah, just
Yanni?
some
Community library.
I'm patron, so I'll just
Number.
stand back.
Did you do
67386.
6,
I don't
7,
think
3,
it's on,
8,
this isn't on here.
They are.
Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, we're not making a decision on it though. We've already made that.
Is it 101? Sorry, just the page number.
Six, 7, 3, 8, 6.
Yeah, I got that.
Right.
The page number is not quite
You've
right.
got them all. Any other conflicts?
Yeah, I'm also a account if you're
Representative.
representative of say Burwood West Residents Association.
Well, if you're the board rep, then no,
That's okay.
because you're there wearing your board hat. Any others? No, all right, well, thank you. So it's important to make those be known. We don't have any deputations or presentations. So before I just pass over to Chris to give us just a little bit of context, in terms of process, what we'll do is we'll just go through and flag. You don't have to say what for, just say, I'll go through and make marks, and then we can come back. And as usual with these things, if you want to increase the funding to anything, then I ask that you give us a way of funding that, because money is tight. We have lots more applications than we do than we can possibly fund. And on that note, I'll pass to Chris.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, definitely echo that. So we received applications of around 1.7 million. We received more applications this year than last year, so that shows that there's definitely a need or desire in the community for support from the board. We've made recommendations. So your funding pool went up a little bit this year compared to last year, just because of a council resolution just increasing the funding policy had 728,000 this year. And you will see that we're recommending, if you accept the recommendations, you'll be left with around about 45,000 in your DRF. So it's quite a small DRF, but looking at, you'll also get a bit of carry forward from last year as well, but that will only be a small amount. But based on what we funded last year, we figured that's an okay amount, but definitely echo what Paul said. It's the board's choice, but I'd be reluctant to suggest you reduce that even further, because it's definitely helpful to have some DRF for community to access throughout the year. And yeah, I guess we've got the team here that have assessed all the applications. They've done awesome work, and if you've got any extra questions from what was already submitted, they'll be here to help out.
Yeah, so we'll deal with questions about specific things if flagged and not otherwise. Like, there's no point in having a conversation that we don't need to have now, just the conversations that we need to have, if that makes sense. I do want to flag something which I think we can address at the end. So I don't know if any of you have read, or at least read, the articles about the Royal Commission. I don't know if any of you read or read any articles about the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse and Care. And they've just made a whole host of recommendations, including about that organisations that work with children and young people need to or look at their policies and procedures, particularly, and including in regard to how they deal with diversity, both ethnic diversity, rainbow, and that kind of thing. And although we don't currently have a position on that, what I'd like to do is at the end of this is to move requests of staff to have a look, to work with those groups to understand their policies and procedures on that, to provide us more information for our next funding round. That makes sense. So I don't change the pull the rug under from anybody's feet now, but I think that we should do our bit to take heed of what the Royal Commission has said, so I'll move that at the end. I'll come up with some words. From that, does anyone have any questions in terms of process? Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. Oh, well, the same way that we've done previously, which is, if I'll go through and I'll read them out. I won't read out any of the ones that don't have any funding unless unless somebody wants to raise them. I'll read out all the ones that have staff recommendations. And if anybody, so if you want to, so I said this at the beginning, if you want to flag for, you don't say increase or decrease, you just say flag or yes, and then we'll come back. So rather than go have a debate about every single one, we just assume the staff recommendation unless we have to come back to it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Any questions about that? No.
Oh, sorry.
Yanni?
I just have one question around around the process of looking at the various wards and how much. I did ask this question previously, but I don't think I got an answer. But I'm just quite interested to know, I guess really just for information and trends around the number of groups from each ward in terms of the request for funding versus the recommended or the allocated amount. So just wondering if we have the information to understand kind of what's happening across the wards.
The information is within the time frame that I was able to provide. I've broken the wards down. Kids gave me which ward, broken down the figures by ward, so that you can see how much they applied for and what the percentage split was, how much we've recommended and what the percentage split was. So that's included in your agenda. The piece of work that we haven't really done is, just because of resourcing and timing, is sort of the type of group, whether it's a or type of program or whatever the funding. So that is not broken down, but you've got the ward splits. So that should be on the questions and responses in your agenda.
Right, but are we able to see at some point, are we able to get a sense of the trends as well? I guess it's only the second year, so the trend won't be there.
The trend in what way?
Just in terms of the number of groups applying from each ward, whether it's going up or down, whether the quantum itself is going up or down.
I guess if you're happy to, we can build on what we've done this year. So next year we can do the same sort of breakdown, and then you'll be able to see, what level of funding. If you're wanting us to sort of look backwards, we've only really got 1 more year's of figures because it's a new board. But maybe if we look forward and do the same breakdown each year, that will keep building that picture of where the funding requests and recommendations are going.
Yeah, and my own view is that it needs to be based fundamentally on need first. Like that some kind of arithmetic. Simple equality isn't really.
No, I understand that. I guess the reason for just wanting that information is during the local government commission hearings to the disestablishment of the previous community board, one of the concerns that the community raised was that access to funding would become harder and that potential risk around loss of funding. So having the evidence that shows that actually, that it's not happening, and there is,
Our board area
still
gets the most funding because there's a need criteria.
Yeah, and that's exactly how the funding is split as well. It's partly on population, but it's also on deprivation. So when Linwood joined Coastal-Burwood, it brought everything that Linwood was allocated always.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So we will.
Just in terms of like how the sort of distribution is calculated, I see in the responses, but it says it's membership of the club. So if your club in, say, Wigram had 5 people from Burwood, would they then be eligible for 5%?
So the way that the splits typically work, so we work closely with the other board teams as well. So when an application comes in, if they're saying that their members come from different areas, different board areas, it's based on where their participants are coming from. So it might be members, but I think it's the participants. If it's a sports club, they might come from other areas. If it's a really low amount, we'll typically try and work with the other community board team and say, hey, maybe you should just take the whole amount, and that there's a bit of give and take with that. If there is an application that is more than a 3-way split, typically it becomes metro, we move it out of our funding pool. But we work with the teams, we work with the groups to understand where their participants or their members are coming from, and that's what the split is based on. So you'll see that there's some here that we've recommended 0 because we feel like their participants don't necessarily come from our area. There's some that we have the split amounts as well. So hopefully that makes sense. And what we also try to include as well is the recommendation from the other community board teams, so you can see what they're recommending, but their board may change that as well.
And just in terms of after this process, is it possible to actually just review, because you're talking about groups that have working with young people, but also just how we approach the funding in general, because we've seen a massive increase in groups applying to our fund, which is probably not going to stop. So actually, how do we do we need to review the criteria in terms of how we approach it? And I think it would probably make it easier for all of us and staff if we were really clear on what groups were kind of in and out, because to me, membership and participation, you know what I'm saying, that there is a bit of a blurry line there, and that we seem to be just throwing money at some groups that might not be targeting programs in the east and that need-based thing. So could we look at that as part of the review for the next funding round?
We can include reviewing the criteria.
Yeah, and just based on some feedback from staff as to where some of the gaps are.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
so if you make a resolution on that, I sort of encourage it to, because I understand there's going to be a citywide review on funding, and I think something like that needs to be done at a citywide level, because the criteria the criteria is the same for the community boards, so you wouldn't want
Yeah.
to try and tailor something here. It's got to work across the city, because when there are splits, we
Yeah.
need to work with everyone.
So maybe that could be pending the feedback from staff, because at the meeting
You
last
could
week,
include
it wasn't
it.
clear that there was gonna be a review.
Be good if
Yeah.
the boards, I assume, will have input into that. Kelly and Angry.
Quick question, probably for Chris. Just in terms of the other parts of the city, if we have a weighting in our favour, can you give us an idea of?
So the way that the funding split is, it's based 60% on population, 40% on deprivation, and it's based on the figures that we get from stats.
So do you have a vague idea the money available to, say, Waimari, Pendleton, kind of thing? Could you
I can, yes, it will be all public in everyone's agendas, so those figures are, I can let you know them after, I don't know if it's relevant for today, but since the representation review, it's still done on population, but most of the boards were balanced on the population level because we had to. The difference comes with the deprivation.
Okay, well, when I was on another board in 2010, the Pendleton Waimairi board didn't even spend all of its funding.
And it's probably half what we got.
Greg.
With unused funds from last year, that gets returned, doesn't it? Do we have an idea of how much has been returned from previous years, and if the same people have applied for that funding this year?
Oh, I see. So you mean from the groups, unspent funding? We don't get a lot of it coming back. Most of them will spend it. Every now and then, very rarely, so it's not all the time. We will get the odd one that will not be able to spend it, or they can't deliver a program. And what we've got as a process is that they can request a repurposing of the funds, and the delegation of that sits with the governance manager of the area. If it was something substantial, I'd always check with the board anyway. The only times that I've ever done it, it's been a couple of $100, and whether they haven't been able to print flyers, for example, and they want to do something else. But if it was something bigger, I'd come back to you guys. So there have been a couple of times where it comes back. When those funds come back, it goes into your DRF, and then that's carried forward to another year as well. So I'm not aware of any returning funds from groups, but you will have a carry forward from. So you'll see the next report is around your board projects. There's always a little bit left over from, say, your board awards or something like that. Once the mop-up's done with finance, that gets put back into your next DRF.
We have had in the past, it's been picked up.
Yeah. All right. Let's get cracking. So we'll go through all of the stuff that has staff recommendation, and then I'll ask if anybody wants to flag anything that doesn't have any staff recommendation. So we're just asking for flag. So just say flag, and I'll make those next to it. Right. So, Bromley Community Association, Social Service Council of the Diocese of Christchurch. Sorry, can you say something? So
Oh, yes, that one.
want to flag that?
Yep.
Te wharitanga ona iwi katoa Linwood Resource Centre. Wainoni Avonside Community Services Trust. Anglican Diocese of Christchurch, Parish of East Christchurch. A-Town Boxing. Avon Otakaro Network. Biological Husbandry Unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry.
No. Burwood Pegasus Community Work. Burwood Community Church Trust.
Flag.
Canterbury Pacific Volleyball Association. Flag. Delta Community Support Trust. Did I? Oh, I think most of the
Carlton Redcliffe.
oh, sorry. Yeah, blind. Carlton Redcliffe's Hockey.
Yes, please.
Compassion Trust. Delta Community Support Trust. Christchurch. Edgebrook Croquet Club.
Please.
Epic Sports Project New Zealand.
Please.
Helen Anderson Trust, flag. He Wakatapu, Kotahi Oro, the Vita Youth Trust, Linwood Ave Community Corner Trust, Linwood Rugby League Football Club, New Brighton Community Gardens,
Flag.
New Brighton Care and Foreshore Promotion Society Incorporated, New Brighton Silver Band, Heathcote River Network, HIPS, Premier Keep, Tuhara Kikanui, Sixth Living Laboratory, Queens Park Community Trust, Renew Brighton, Richmond Community Gardens, Shirley Rugby Football Club, Shirley Rugby League Club,
Flag.
Shirley Tennis Club, South City Youth Trust,
Flag.
So tennis flag.
South Island Toe Tag,
Flag.
St Albans Park Sports Club, Stitcho Mac Charitable Trust, Tamai Sports,
Flag.
Te Kupinga o Aranui, Te Papatipu Mataheko, Ridge Street, South of Brighton, Brighton Gallery Trust,
Flag.
Team in New Zealand Charitable Trust, Tūhono Taonga, Waimari Beach Golf Club,
Flag.
Alston Boxing Club,
Flag.
360 Totua, I just a question. And so now we're down to some, sorry, now we're in some, there's no sub recommendations for the next few, any on this list, so from 360 Totua down red flag for Itipuria. Any others down to the, at the bottom, you've got the green land.
Green flag.
To Widow,
Sorry?
to Widow.
To Whittle. Any others? Okay, so then we'll move now to the applications under 5,000. Albion softball, Avon sequence dancers,
Flag.
Burwood Association football, Burwood East residents, Burwood Park tennis, Community Watch City of Sumner, Darlington Community Cottage, Darlington Community Gardens, Darlington Residents Association, New Brighton Cricket Club, New Brighton Netball Club, New Brighton Olympic Athletic Club,
Flag.
North Beach Residents Association, North Beach Surf Life Saving Club, North Beach Tennis Club, Harpins Christchurch United, softball, Harpins Toy Library, Senior Net New Brighton, Shirley Toy Library, Smith Street Community Farm Trust, South Brighton Tennis Club, Spencerville Residents Association, Waimari Beach Residents Association, Alston Community Library, that's flag, Mount Pleasant Pottery Club, oh, that's a zero, sorry. Any of those last two that have zeros? No, right, so
Oh, I was wondering before, the Shirley Toy Library.
I said that came out here.
Come here. Last one.
okay. All right, so we start from the top now. Please, if it's not a reduction, I think I'm asking for some suggestion as how we might pay for it, because at the moment it's a zero sum game. So that zero sum meaning zero it. So let's I'll just go one by one and then we take them. So the first one that we've flagged is the Social Service Council, guys, it's Christchurch, and that's the community development workers in Linwood. So
So the questions that I sent through, thank you for answering those. The, probably the bit that I wasn't clear on yet is in terms of the total amount funded. Previously we funded them for 70K, but it was split across 3 roles. So there's continuity of funding in terms of the quantum, but the actual breakdown, it was previously 28 for the community development worker for Linwood. So I'm just wondering why it's now 59, which is quite a substantial increase.
Please. Doesn't work. I'll go with that one. I'll speak louder. So actually, so when we look back into it, when the roles were split after the representation review, so actually the additional role, so that's the Sydenham community worker role, constitutes an additional $36,377. So actually the total amount now is about 106,000. So it's not 70,000 for those 3 roles. So previously when they split, the 70,000 continued through, but the actual split is now increased as a result between our board and the Spraid and Cashmere Healthcare Board.
Sorry, I don't quite follow. Can you explain that?
So you're saying, so you said that the amount was 70 and why for 3 roles, but actually the total amount that they're looking for is 106,000 across the 2 applications now. Those applications have split.
So they'll pay more.
So they've taken the Sydenham role, which is the role you said when there was 3, and now there's 2, but that role still exists as part of a Spraid and Cashmere Healthcare application, and the percentage of that application which goes to that role is 36,000. So when you add the 2 together, it's now 106,000 total.
So sorry, the other community board is contributing 36.
So that's from the 23-24 year, which is the numbers that you're basing it off of, the 70,000, because this year the recommendation is 59.
Sorry, I don't think I quite understand.
So I think
Yeah.
maybe I can help. So it gets complicated after the representation review because obviously the applications go elsewhere. You don't have visibility of the 3rd role because it's not a split. I think it might be getting confused when we're saying a split. It's an individual application to the board, so it's not part of this as a split. So with the 3 roles, where you're saying the 3 roles don't equate to 70,000, they equate to 103 or whatever the max was there. If you added in Spraydens to this split.
But so if we just look at the Linwood role, which was where our contribution, the previous board's contribution to that was 28.
70.
I've just got, because I'm looking at the 21-22 Central Healthcare Linwood matrix, and the contribution there was, we've got a breakdown, which I've sent to Chris, and it shows 17 total. And, and it has 28 for Linwood and 28 for Spraydon for wages.
Okay, I've got different numbers here, so I need to check those numbers.
Okay.
I'll forward these.
Maybe we can come back to that one.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one. I'll forward them to because we're in a meeting. I haven't seen your
sure.
email.
Yeah, no, okay, well, I'll just park that one for now, because that was mostly just understanding if we're just focusing on the Linwood role, and if I look at the previous funding agreement or contribution, it was 28 for that specific role. Now our contribution is 59 for that specific role.
There's 2 roles.
I know, but they have a breakdown of what the previous board contributed to the Linwood role, which is 28. 27 went to the Spraydon role, because they've got a breakdown. And my understanding is the current contribution for the Sydenham role is 15. So I'm just trying to see some consistency in how we're funding that role.
3 roles in total.
Yes, I'm just focusing on the Linwood one. We paid 28 towards that role. I can pull
And
the
you're talking what financial year?
21-22, but it's in the screenshot from that.
So just to help.
Yeah.
So the next few aren't Rory's. So maybe Rory, if you step back and then have a piece through those figures.
All right, we'll come back to that. Next one is the Burwood Community Church Trust.
Yeah, that was me. I'll be quite blunt.
Don't have to be.
For any group, I'm questioning the motivation of the group. And so my question to Jason is it non-religious, the group that we're funding? The program.
The program, obviously Burwood Community Trust is a church religious space, and there's a youth program that runs out of that space, and their job is in there to provide youth works and a community space within the week and drop-in centres. In terms of religious, it's run out of the church. I can't guarantee that there won't be any sort of.
Because I googled it and had a good look at their website and stuff, but I can't find anything saying the outside community apart from leasing space. So I wouldn't be comfortable giving any group money if it's there for the reason to convert.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a reason to convert is the only priority, but.
No, that's a priority that's built into it.
If so, I know I've been like, on one of these trusts before and been a community pastor and stuff, and like it's kind of like, so I talked to Tim, and it's so from in this particular one, it looks like they're running a clearly religious group and a non-religious group, like a standard like youth group kind of at the same time, at the same place, with the same person in charge, and as opposed to just being one or the other, and so it's not that we have a problem with any whatever the religion might be. It's that those need to be different things. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So can you address that?
Without going into too much detail, I realise that the programs, so you're talking about the youth group itself, Tim?
Yeah.
The Wednesday night evening. That is just a youth group that is run as any other youth group is going to run under a church umbrella within the city. Games, belonging, the chance for young people to feel safe and build a relationship with the leader or an older person in their lives. I can't exactly comment on the conversations that are happening, but I've been informed that they're not there to convert. But that's the most I can give you.
I think for me, I'd be comfortable not wearing this year, but for future, like we're talking about policy, that we'd need some more information next time around from any church group or temple group, whatever, to make sure that it is a circular program rather than a religious program.
I mean, it can be a secular program, but they can still be professional or introducing those concepts that will not be introduced in a secular youth group.
Well, I mean, in an attempt to try and be what's the word, ideologically neutral. If the Labour Party was running a youth group, which is a cult that I'm involved in, there would be inevitably be conversations, because that's just part of the way human beings are. But as a board, we wouldn't fund a Labour Party event, a membership drive kind of thing. So it's just I think it's probably wise to flag that as something that we need to be clear about, and that can apply. That applies across the board as a general principle.
Across the board.
Yeah. Celeste.
Just a process question, if there's ones that we would like more information about, can we lay them on the table for the next meeting?
No.
Okay, it's not possible.
The challenge with that is a number of these relate to, say, program costs or wages. There's a bit of a process of paying it out as well. So it's why, and it's great because we had some of the questions ahead that we could answer. That's why it's kind of key. So ideally, no, not to lay on the table, but.
I mean.
So if it's not wages, it could be an option.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could, for instance, we'll see where we come to in terms of wanting to increase the funding of other groups. So I think we've addressed that. we'll come back and see where we might need to find funding. So the next one is the Canterbury Pacifica Volleyball Association. I'd be interested in increasing the funding of that for a little bit. I'd be happy to take money from the what's been allocated to the previous one that we were talking about. Maybe just to increase that to 3,000. Yeah.
This is a question also. I just, not this project specifically, but I see here that this has got a 3-board split or 3-board split. I thought that would be true. If that was the case, or is it more than three?
More than three.
Okay.
You know, I mean, Greg?
Just on that, like as Alex says, it's a 3-area split, but it's a Canterbury club, which would clearly involve other boards as well if it's a Canterbury organisation.
But for the purpose of this, it's a 3-way split.
Yeah, so like I said, so we base it on participants. If we've got debts, we ask more questions as well, but they're required to tell us where the participants come from. These are what we've assessed is that they fit into your local fund. I'm not speaking of any group in particular. Sometimes where you've got small margins of group, small margins of participants that might push into Metro. But for a lot of these applications, potentially they wouldn't do well at the Metro level and wouldn't see any funding, which means the local area misses out. So where we think it's appropriate, that's why we're recommending.
I agree with increasing this. That's great.
I agree with you.
So that's just $500 increase.
Are we making this?
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. We're not making a decision.
To the end.
From the Burwood Community Church Trust. The one above me.
Yeah. So that would if we voted, it'd be 9.5.
That's 3K.
Right, yeah.
Assuming it's just a straight swap. Right. Next one is Carlton Redcliff's Hockey Club.
I was just interested in the split here because it wasn't in the matrix, but you've put it in the notes afterwards. And 65-35, is it 65 we're contributing or 35 we're contributing?
35.
35?
Yeah.
So it's going to be that?
Yes.
Thank you.
3 people, one.
So that's a question. Anything else about this?
Chair, before you flip over, I think Rory's ready to answer Councillor Donovan's questions.
Okay, hold on. Coming back to Rory, and then we'll answer we'll go back to the one we're talking about now. Rory?
No, apologies for that. Seeing it all makes sense. So, in terms of the differences between the two applications, firstly, these roles have recently been reviewed by the City Mission. So there's now 2 new people in these roles. So the the community shed role has now got an expanded scope, moving and increasing the number of sessions within the men's shed. So instead of it originally being 2 sessions a week, there are now 3 specific men's sessions and 2 community sessions. Is essentially they've changed the scope of it from being a men's shed to a community shed. And then part of the increase as well also reflects living wage, increase the minimum wage and things like that as well with those new roles that have been put in. So that's partially why the numbers have increased since then, or I suppose stayed similar since then, despite the reduction in the additional role, if that makes sense.
So, sorry, just so I'm clear, so you're saying that the role itself has grown, the scope of the role, so the wages have gone up, which is why the contribution has.
So in 2 parts to it, so the
Yeah.
scope of the role has changed
Okay.
since that previous application, so that's one factor. The other factor is in terms of minimum wages increased twice, I think, since 21-22 potentially, and also the living wage standard as well.
Being a pay equity settlement for community social workers, that might be.
Potentially, yes, so that's also part and factor of, I guess, the basic hourly rate for these roles has also changed. And then to further to that is also the impact and work that they do in the community, I think reflects the importance of these roles and seeing that they remain in that in that space with the amount of impact they're doing across the gardens and the coordination of the centre. So yeah, kind of as a package, there's a multitude of things, but I understand the kind of, yeah.
So just a couple other quick ones. I see these through. Sorry, it was only today once I saw the response, but why is it comparable, the increase in the scope for the Sydenham role?
I'm not sure on based on the Sydenham role, no, sorry.
Because there's quite a difference in how much the boards are funding for each of those two roles.
So there is the community, there's two separate roles within Linwood. So there's the community development worker role, and then there's the men's shed role. So that men's shed role community shed role. It's a very different, it's quite a unique space in terms of targeting, at-risk men in the community and trying to activate that. So there is a very different skill set to that role than there would be to a community worker role.
So I'm just interested in the 59K, which is the one role, right? No,
two roles.
That's two roles.
So that's for the men's shed role, community shed role and the community development worker. So there's two roles as part of that 59.
Okay, that makes more sense. So the 11K is for a project on top of that.
So that's a separate application.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And just one final question.
About this?
Is around, because it's still quite a large grant, and obviously we're looking across the board area and we're giving 200 here and 3,000 there. This is quite a significant grant. The total is 70K. How much money do they have to hand to pay for wages and?
So the total for this is 59,000. They're separate organisations and applications.
So 59K, how much have they got to hand to aid within diocese? Bearing in mind that we're giving out grants to other parishes and they're about 8 or 9K contribution because we're only partially funding them and much less than 67%. So I would assume the parishes do have funds to hand. Do we know what they've got to hand to pay for these roles? Because my concern is that every year there's an expectation we fund them to the same level where actually I think, like all organisations, they should be a little bit self-sustaining, particularly if they do also have money to hand. We've seen that at the metro level as well. They've said actually we can afford to fund this, but we still want money.
So in terms of this application, they've requested 67% is the total amount. So they've identified they've got $40,000 coming from other sources of funding. But in terms of the bigger picture, I don't think necessarily be reflective of this individual project, given the size of the organisation, if you know what I mean. Because of the scope and what they do, we could easily say they've got X amount sitting there, but not necessarily allocated. So I don't know the finer details of their full organisational funds that would relate exactly. I can only look at it from this project of what they've said funds on hand are available. Okay,
I guess for future reviews, I'd like to have more information because at a metro level, we often take that into account for a lot of these bigger, like the Catholic diocese. We actually know that they've got funds to hand, so we can then make a decision about whether we are funding them through the community board, because obviously there's a choice there. If it's sustainable through another means, let's go for that. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Cool. Thank you. So back to the Carlton Yanni, you have a question about Carlton Recliff.
Sorry, I just need to go, so I just give apologies. So just to flag, the ones that I raised were just quickly, the Linwood Kias and the some boxing just for $1,000 increase, just to make them consistent with the A-Town boxing, which is getting, so I think Jackie and Paul are aware of my interest. But also just the other one that I did raise concern about, which the South City Youth Trust with Palace, which that one is the program that's run at the same time as the youth group, the same people on the same day at the same place. So that was the one that I had concerns about as well.
And if I remember correctly, you wanted to give a bit out to Etiperia.
Oh yeah,
cheers.
I mean, I'll leave it to the board. I guess my preference, and I know historically from the other community board, we did generally fund some of the learning centres, particularly non-profit. So I was really open and supportive of giving a small contribution to those. But yeah, I'll leave that to the board to have that conversation.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All the best with your team.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Anything
I
about
just mixed up all the work that has done as well.
months and months of
I'm
work?
sure you
Yeah.
will. I just want to acknowledge that too.
All right. So the Carlton Recliff Hockey Club, will you address that?
Oh,
Just around, obviously it's the end of the season, and so we've got probably a good 7 months till the season starts again. It shows here they haven't applied for funding anywhere else. Do they have a reason why they haven't applied for any funding?
No, that
Especially
wasn't.
such a large lead time?
No, that wasn't brought up. It was just that they've got 500 in user fees. Yeah, it wasn't brought up. Oh my God. I can find out if you want.
I mean, yeah, it is a long way from the next season. Almost might be worth them applying for DRF later. But
They might do summer practice.
yeah, well, it's true. They might. It's not a large amount. All right. The next one.
So I think we're happy with that.
Yeah, it's a small amount. The next one is Edgware Croquet Club, which says it's 62% in our ward. Now, I understand that there was a croquet club here that closed at House Terrace. And
Blythe Garden.
Oh, yeah, Blythe Garden.
Yeah.
And then, and which is why, is that why the membership is mostly 62% in our ward?
I'm actually not sure about the last croquet club that was in this area, but it is a very small croquet club, like maximum of 30 members to attend, and the majority do, by 62%, come from that area.
Yeah, it's probably because of that.
So I mean, there's about 17,
Yeah.
17 from that area who attend regularly.
I mean, Edgeware's quite a long way away, so that raised a flag with me. But then when I saw 62%, I thought there must be some reason.
Yeah, as I said, I wasn't unsure about the previous one.
Yep. All right, that addresses that. Epic Sports, which is 80% HHR.
Yeah,
Who had questions about that?
yeah, it's just,
Joan?
I have read about this, but is there not anywhere else between Hornby and Coastal who contribute to this club or are involved in it? It just seems like there's a whole lot over that side of town, and then there's a little portion of them over this side of town to get funding from that, but no one in between.
So they started at HHR because they were based out of Hornby.
Yeah.
Had a really good working relationship with the school there. And then as they started to expand and do more, they worked with Bromley Community Centre and identified Cypress Park as at space in that. As a different
Okay, so
location.
they've got two
it's just
locations.
Yeah.
kind of opportunistic.
Oh,
that they came
okay,
out
that
with.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Helen Anderson Trust. Now, I'm a bit, I guess I'm a bit very enthused about organisations that do things like this, because I have a son who goes to a special needs school, and I understand the immense amount of work that it would take to take some people on a Duke of Edinburgh thing. So I would be quite keen to give a bit of a little increase to them. If that,
I just wanted to query if this is within our ward or involves people from our ward completely.
so Ferndale School has satellites at Shirley Boys, at Martin School, at Hyata,
Phillipstown.
and Phillipstown, which isn't in our ward area.
No, but the kids there come from, I don't know.
I know, it's kids that come from, I don't know, and Linwood, Linwood Ave School. So
do all those kids go to this trust?
yeah, so
Okay.
I believe that the trust is what provides
Is that
the
correct?
Duke of Edinburgh, and Ferndale is the East Side Special School, you know?
Yeah, so in essence, that's, as Chris said to earlier, it gets to the point where if, there are, it's not going to be exclusive for people in our area, but when it comes down to one or two participants, they may be from other areas, the amount of work that goes into doing a split, and then that's where we negotiate with other boards. So yeah, as Paul said, the majority are from our ward area, hence why the whole application sits with us.
Got 3 within 20 metres of my place.
So we're looking to give them another 1,000?
I reckon 2.
How much do they?
Where's it coming from?
2 to 4. We don't know who's put a number down, we go.
No, no, you have to
At the
say
end,
where
we've
it
got to
comes
figure
from.
that out.
Right.
No, I'll take it from that place of Burwood.
I guess there's,
We went to the end before we decide that.
well, so if you have something in mind, okay, we'll put it down, we'll come back. Linwood Rugby League Football Club. Yanni wanted a bit of an increase.
By about £1,000. From the rugby league football club, and that, yeah, it's because he wants to bring them into line with
Rugby league.
rugby league. Yeah, I'm sorry, they mean the same to me. He wanted to bring it into line with some of the other sporting groups. So he wanted that to go up to 4.
I support this, and not necessarily because I think every board has to have a fair share amongst the groups. It's more so I know how much work that they do in the community. That's why I'd be more than happy to support them more.
Yeah, there was I don't know what the score was, but I think this last weekend there was a big match between the Riccarton Knights and the Cares. I don't know I have to find out what the score was. So Cares are number 1, and I think the Knights are number 3 table. New Brighton Community Gardens Trust.
Yeah, I flagged that. I'd like to see them actually get quite a bit more because they've taken on 1 extra staff this year and they're actually doing a lot more work with the sensory garden as well.
They're getting 22,000.
Which is, I think, flatlined.
Flatline from
20.
From 20, so that's not
Yeah.
flat.
It used to be more than that.
Yeah,
So that's a 10% increase.
but if you look at we're talking about living wage increases for the diocese, of these guys in the same boat. So there's an effective reduction if you consider that other groups are getting more.
Well,
There's very few other groups that are getting more. Very few of these ones are actually getting more than they've received in the past. So that it's not strictly correct to say other groups.
Staff, do you have anything to?
I would have loved to have given them more, but we just couldn't make the figures work. It's just, yeah, how do you?
I support an increase. I mean, this is one of the most effective groups in our area, and well, I mean, we're talking about lots of groups that are deserving of an increase, but this is one that we know well, and we think that they deserve an increase.
What do you think?
I personally think around 5K would be good.
That's a lot of money for us to find from elsewhere, but
Let's just flag it.
Would it be possible to, like if Celeste, Joe and Alex want to increase the funding for a group in their particular area, that they take it from another group in their area?
I think that would
be more equitable?
Well, no, that would be appreciated, but we need to factor in, and it needs to be, I think it should be needs-based.
How about a needs-based in their ward?
There was already.
Can we just have it orderly, please? So we have a suggestion. Let's come back to it. And we can have a pause if we need to have a pause.
Bear in mind that hasn't been suggested for things that were to live with.
Councillors,
You've been talking about taking stuff.
Kelly, order. Kelly,
Church.
I'm speaking, Kelly, from the chair. You're supposed to stop. Okay, can we have an orderly discussion, please, rather than you two arguing backwards and forwards? It doesn't help any of us make a good decision. You can take turns, but you can't talk over each other and talk over me. Right.
Can I?
Kelly, did you want to speak?
I do like that idea of perhaps looking at our own wards first before we start looking at taking money from other wards. I just think that's, I think that's a good process, and I think it's fair.
It was Celeste and then Jackie.
Sure, and I mean, I'm happy to discuss that, but I haven't suggested taking anything from another ward. I've just, like other people have, flagging it for a bump. So I haven't followed a different process, so just a bit confused to why that would be an issue now. So we're just flagging that for a bump, as we've done so far.
So this is currently, we just take it as a wish list, and then we can deal with how we're going to make the wish list. Jackie?
I just wanted to, remind everyone that we're a board, we're not individual boards, and it is equity based. Right? But this is a needs-based process that we're going through. So to say, oh, blah, blah, if you could take that from me, then you have to take something from their particular ward. There might be something in the Linwood ward that we don't actually agree with or we want to reduce. And why can't go to a coastal project if the coastal project needs more funds? We need to look at it as from a board level and a needs-based process, not break it off and this ward gets this and that ward gets that. We have an equity problem across the board, and this process is needs-based, not equal division between the different
And I do appreciate that we all want to make sure that it's fair across the boards. But
Yes.
Jackie is right in that we need to think about what the need is. And but I will say, if something is a long-standing effective group, I don't think that's an argument in itself for getting more funding. There might be other aspects of it that make it important, but being, that we need to just think a bit more of that than being a preferred group.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the principle or are we talking about the specific thing?
I'm just talking about what I said right at the start, that they've actually taken on more work in another worker and doing the sensory grant is on top of what they were doing previously.
We'll come back to this one. So we're not talking about the specific one now. We're just
come back.
Yeah. So next time we have a disagreement, can we just have an orderly disagreement? Because it would make sense. Yeah.
All right, Paul.
All right. Thank you. Let's go. The next one is the Shirley Rugby Football League.
Is there a split on that one?
Yeah, CBL. So it's mostly central.
58-34.
Yeah. Is that was just a question about split?
Yep.
Yeah. Shirley Tennis Club.
I think the question was just around, again, it's kind of the same, but I think it's been
60-40.
that.
Right. South City Youth Trust. So this was one flagged by, which had a similar issue with the.
It's the same.
I flagged it as well.
Yes.
Same group.
So what did Yanni want?
I just flagged it. It's an issue that it appears to be just a religious and secular thing happening at the same time.
Okay, I was just wondering, because it's in Crosby Street, Murrayha, as well, whether it is actually part of our ward or part of the other ward.
Participants.
It's it's right on the border.
It's where I go.
Huh?
So where I go. It's on Hills Road rather than Marshall Road.
Crosby Street,
Yeah,
Murrayha.
Oh, so you can always have a quick look.
Just outside the metro.
Yeah, well, I'm not wearing that hat.
No, that's what I'm saying is our ward's smaller.
Yes,
Is this one we could look at for reduction?
I think so. It is an Ennis ward. Yeah.
Was this South City?
Mm-hmm.
I'd also support the reduction based on Yanni's reasoning.
Do you know where the participants are from, Rory?
Just looking at the moment, but I was just double checking this. So most of the participants come out of Hayata Community Campus.
Yeah.
That's in this one.
Okay.
And
No.
sorry for those that aren't. That's in Coastal-Burwood-Linwood ward. For those that might not know where it is.
Reduction by
So-
what?
Yep. Can we flag that for a reduction to 3,000? Stitch-O-Mat.
It was really just a question around where you saw them sitting in terms of their funding and maybe a little bit more detail around whether they would benefit from any increase or you think that they're managing okay?
I think they're managing okay. They did come back last year for the deficit because I think they got to a point where they decided from memory that Sam, who was in the position last year, was working over and above her hours.
Yeah.
I think they sorted that out and have applied for more, but they also applied to other organisations as well. So
That's fine, yeah.
for organisations.
You missed out toe tag.
Oh,
Steve, come on.
yeah, I missed
It's
it.
Greg and Celeste.
South Island, so say,
Oh.
I'll discuss.
I know it's Greg.
Yeah, it's directly on the south, so that's why.
That was again around the area that it's covering and the relevant participants.
Where are they based?
Just the South Island is kind of a big area.
Yeah, where are they based?
Yeah, South Island is just the organisation that they're called, and they're mostly based out of the Linwood area, run the competitions at Bromley Park.
Roundabout. Oh, I see them because they're not far from work. I see them a lot. Yeah,
They're
Okay.
nights generally.
cool.
Okay, they agree.
Yep, no issue there. All right. No, if I missed anything else, the Brighton Gallery Trust.
Sports.
That's what I said. Let me know if I missed anything else.
Tamworth Sports, I was just questioning again, that one's based in Cranford Street, St Albans.
Oh, yep, there we go. So much.
Yeah, so that's where their office is based. They're just mainland football is used for the office space. But they run out of Linwood Park. They run their programs at Linwood Park.
Cool. Brighton Gallery Trust.
Just the same question as before, really just how they're going, because I see it's a reduction on previous years, so.
Yeah, I've been meeting with them quite a bit recently. They are definitely need to apply to other organisations for funding. They've had a bit of a change around in their committee. So we're kind of working on capacity building at the moment so that they can basically apply to more other organisations apart from us. I think in terms of what we could offer them isn't going to be a scratch on the rent they need at the moment. So they definitely need to get some applications into larger organisations, to like funders rather than council, I guess. But working through that process would be great. Thank you.
All right. Waitai Beach Golf.
Jackie.
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay.
No, it was the Wilson boxing I was going.
Oh, Wilson boxing.
Yeah,
Yeah, Yanni and wanted what are they getting? Yanni wanted it to be in.
Wanted to take it up to 4,000 to match A-Town.
It is pretty good.
That's three.
That's
Oh,
three.
sorry, I'm looking at them.
And then there's oh no, there was 360 tour. Actually, no, that was me because I thought someone else had a question about it. Etiquette, they their chairs are they've cleaned them so many times that the chairs are perishing, and I think it just, we don't have that many Pacific organisations that we're able to support. I would like to be able to support them with, $1,000 or something towards their chairs.
Yeah.
Te Wero, that was now Te Wero recently got some funding from us, didn't they?
Yeah, 3,200 towards equipment and transport for their. That's for their DRF, that's from the DRF fund.
Yeah, DRF, which is why I assume why. Yeah, I mean, when we're trying to allocate scarce funding, they've recently got funding, so.
Yeah, so they're asking for money just towards their lease, not just towards, but towards their leasing. And I'd love to give them money towards their leasing, but
yeah,
it's not a priority in terms of the financial restraints.
That's in the context, I agree. Everybody feels passionately otherwise. No, all right. Greenland, who just off the top of my head, we have granted quite a bit of BOF.
Yeah, my understanding, and I've chatted to a few people about this, is they previously were funded through Enlivened Places, and then they weren't put through for the city and placemaking, which is a similar fund, for various reasons. So they're being asked to apply for that. And I guess my question was, can we let that one lie on the table until we find out? Because there's a bit of miscommunication during the long-term plan as to where they should apply. So they were sent to the community board rather than the Metro Fund, and they weren't put through to the city and placemaking fund, so they might get funding through that, but if they don't, we've got funding,
They could come to the DRE
yeah,
rather than, because you can't leave this on the table.
okay. So that might be the best option.
All right,
If it is left on the table currently, it's a zero balance, so it doesn't really affect either way, does it?
Well, it was,
so we are going, assuming we allocate all the funding, there'll be no funding left apart from DRE.
Mhm.
So the only way that we could leave this on the table, well, is by allocating more to the DRE. But then that's kind of predetermining it. On its merits, we have to decide whether or not we're going to allocate funding to it from the SCF. And I think it would be better off to allocate to the DRF and then decide on its merits when it comes back.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. All right, so Avon sequence dancers. That's $200. Does someone have a question about that?
It's a very small amount, it's just because it was in AA, and I was like, this is, you know, in terms of what we're funding citywide.
I guess they've got a few people from over here.
25% of 1,200.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Yeah.
$200, I mean, if that's gonna help,
Take
cool.
away. No, that's fine.
Burwood Park Tennis Club.
Yeah, I'd like to see an increase towards their ball feeder,
By how much?
by another 1,000.
So to 2,000. Right, and New Brunswick Olympic Athletic Club.
Yeah, thanks. I just know a lot about this club from going down to watch races there, and they're really, really quite struggling for a lot of things. And they've only asked for funding for power and insurance, which are basic needs for a club. They've not asked for upgrades of gear or equipment or anything, and I'd actually like to see them get at least 500 more.
Really good library. It's a 50-50.
That was, it was 50-50, but then begin to sort of continuity, the Parklands Tour Library is getting the same value with $1,000. It's fully funded from our board. That was the query I had around that.
Oh, Parklands.
The Parklands Tour Library had $1,000 recommended.
Yeah.
And yet it was $1,000 towards the Shirley Tour Library, but that's going 50-50 with another board.
They've also requested this though.
Did it answer it?
Yep.
I mean, not exactly like a percentage, but the amount they've requested.
And there was the Wilson Community Library. They have, last time they received 1,000, this time they received 1,000. We could bump it up to 1,250.
It's only 130 less in their application.
Huh?
It's only 130 less in their application.
Wilson Community Library, yeah. But I mean, that's on the scale of their budget, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry, did you?
250.
1,250, yeah, so $250. Community Early Learning Trust. This was something that Yanni flagged, but I'm not sure. Huh?
It's a good
1,000. Yeah, they're in a sort of a different situation to Tiberia. Somebody else want to suggest 1,000 for that?
I'll suggest 500.
500? All right, so
I'm pretty sure. What was the amendment to the Wolfstone Community Library?
200, extra $250.
Thank you.
So how,
I'm sorry, can I just, one more, because I missed it in the list.
you may,
The Duke Festival, I actually didn't stop them earlier, but
what festival?
it's called the Duke Festival, they put another name in it.
It's under the,
Oh, the
Right,
American.
yeah.
They're looking at really growing their program, and it does deliver a lot of low-cost activities for groups across the board areas. I'm aware that a similar festival in Sumner, they get about 60K funding through the Metro
Well,
Fund.
they're getting a 500 increase on what they got the previous time,
Yeah, so I'd like to propose above 1,000 for them.
so to 3,000. All right, so what we'll do is we will adjourn briefly for a breather and to sharpen your knives and then we'll and so that gives staff a chance to see where we are in terms of balancing.
So my range, I think we should look at Excel, they were about 22 grand higher at this stage, without taking anything out.
Well,
We'll tell you in a minute.
yeah, all right. Can we pause, please? All right. Hello, everybody. Here we are. We're now, we're about at 11,000, is it? Yeah.
7,700.
11,700. So we can work through and volunteer each other's projects for reduction. It would be most helpful if people would volunteer projects that there's some degree of consensus about, and not go after each other's the ones that we all care about, because we all have ones that we're particularly attached to that we are intimately familiar with. But I will somewhat controversially propose that we can get most of this by reducing the funding for the community church trusts, as was had discussed earlier, which is currently has $10,000 allocated to it. You could use that and allocate it to, and then we would be able to take some of the rest of the funding from our what is currently left for DRF. Are you willing to move that?
No, I just want to debate it.
Want to debate it? So that was not a resolution at the moment. I'm
Yeah, discussing.
down.
Another thing we could do is to reduce that to 5 and take 6,750 from the DRF, reducing it from 45,000 down 6,750.
I will, before I go to you, Alex, I'll ask for advice from staff. So we're talking specifically about the money from the DRF. Can our DRF sustain that?
So, yes is the short answer. It would be quite a small DRF, so you just have to be mindful. But by nature, the DRF it's reactive. If a problem or an issue or unexpected event happens in the community and they need funds, that's what the DRF is for. By reducing it by 5,000, 6,000, whatever it is, it's already recommended at a fairly low level. So I can't offer more advice than that because I don't know what's going to come up.
And it runs out when?
It runs out when it runs out.
I mean, when's the next lot?
Next year.
In January?
No. So that your next, you had more money, your next SCF round. So, 12 months. Thank you.
We could take 1,000 off the callus.
I was going to suggest that I'm really worried about taking money out of DRF, especially with Thompson Park Playground, for example. If the parks team couldn't come to the table there, that's something that we would have used DRF for. Potentially.
I wouldn't want to predetermine that.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is that is what DRF is for, is for projects that we run short of money for, or we want discretionary response funding for, and I'd be concerned about other projects across the board area. So I wouldn't want to take out of DRF any more than we have to out of DRF. So that's just why I'd support potentially taking some out of the palace as well.
So that's the South City. We have, so where is it? So that's 6731. So currently it's at 5. So
it's already been reduced to 3,000.
Oh yeah, we're already proposing to. So we're already proposing to reduce that.
It's part of those figures, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of those figures. So in that case, we
Was it reduced by 3 or 2-3?
It's been reduced by 2,000.
By 2, so by just under half. In that case, we would need to find some of that elsewhere. Are there any other suggestions as to how? I guess like that one of the things that I'll comment on is that a lot of these trusts generally are set up to apply for funding, and a lot of smaller organisations can't afford to apply for funding. Can't they? Like they employ funding people to apply for funding. So and the easiest funding to apply for is council funding.
Well, Julie,
Can we carve off 1,000 from the increase to the community gardens? Because that's quite a lot we're increasing that by. So take it from 27 to 26.
I was thinking about proposing a decrease for the Sticks Living Laboratory to cover that. Maybe
We can take some of both of those.
We could take 1,000 off the gardens and 1,000 off the Sticks Living Laboratory. It's like this isn't a reflection on the work that they do. It's that we have to balance. We have our job as decision makers is to make the best out of scarce resources.
Yeah, I think the community involvement at the gardens probably outweighs the community involvement at the Sticks Laboratory.
We're not necessarily, like I was suggesting 1,000 off each of them.
I personally would like to look at some other options as well, if we're going to.
Yeah, we've got another 4 to 5.
Yeah, so one that I would like to get some information about would be the Shirley Rugby Club, which is getting 8,000, is that right?
So
What information? So we can't really comment on that.
5,000.
5,000.
5,000, sorry.
can I ask Mr. Chair, a suggestion I had to see what people were thinking? Is it a no from everybody or a maybe?
What's that?
To add $6,750 from the area? Is that a no go or is it?
well, what I was suggesting is if we take a little bit more from, we reallocate a little bit more from within what we're proposing, it means the DRF won't be quite so small.
Yeah, but when we're talking about taking 1,000 from here and there, I'm thinking that garden's important, and so is Sticks.
Mm.
So are we better off, is it better off taking it from the DRF than to do that?
No, well, we've actually, like, if you look at the gardens, what we're not actually taking anything off them at all. We're giving them an extra 4, are we not?
Yeah, but they're doing a lot more work.
But we're
than
giving them
last
an
year.
extra 4,
Then
right,
recommended.
instead of 5, so we're actually still giving them more than was recommended.
Yeah, but the recommendation is a balance of what's not what the need is.
Yeah, so
So you, right, I disagree with going for the area.
okay, all right.
We don't know what the future holds.
Yeah,
I'd be
one
quite
at
happy taking the whole lot.
one at a time then. So Kelly?
Yeah, my focus would be on organisations that do a lot for people. So anyone that is activating the community.
Doesn't that apply to all of the groups?
Well, yeah, it does in a way, but I think, I like the concept of the community garden. I think that they do affect a lot of people. I think A-Town, life-changing actors, these are groups that I think really impact people's lives. And so, yeah, I guess my feeling would that we would try to look at those organisations that are going to have the biggest impact on people in the community.
But it's quite a hard thing to quantify. I guess the solution that Tim is proposing is that we just dip into our DRF more.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, is everybody okay with that? I think it's the easiest solution to the problem that we have, which is scarce resources. Alex?
I don't think taking out of money that we might need in the future to fund something now is the best financial management of these funds. We don't know what's coming up. We don't know when we're going to need to dip into the DRF, and it's already a lot lower than other years. Lower than it's not in the lower end, as Chris has mentioned.
By that definition, it would be most prudent to allocate more to the DRF. You know what I mean? Like
but we can't. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, we can.
You mean from the DRF, not to the DRF?
No, so we could allocate as much of this as we wanted to the DRF, but we have a bunch of applications before us for community organisations. I understand that. They do a lot more with the funding than we can do through one project.
I agree. I think DRF at the moment has struck the balance. It's pretty fine line as it is, as Chris was saying earlier, and that can't potentially. But I would vote no, but I mean, it's a board decision, right? So.
It is. So can I just get an indication if anybody is apart? I know
So
Alex.
spell that again, what is it?
So how much do we need from the two?
11,750. Tim has proposed that we take 5,000 from BCCT and 6,750 from the DRF.
Is anybody opposed to that apart from Alex? Jackie, can you?
I'm just concerned that, you know, we have this thing where we want to spend all the money that we have and we don't put anything away for a rainy day. We don't know what's coming up in the next 12 months for our DRF. And when that is gone, it is gone and we have nothing to fall back on. And that just concerns me because we don't know.
It won't be gone, isn't it? Entirely.
No, but 11,000 of it, 6,000 of it will be gone. And, you know, as Chris said, we're already starting out with less than what is ideal. If we take more off, then we're really starting out with less than what is ideal and going into a period where we simply don't know what we're coming up against. And also, we've also said, and we flagged this, for Green Lab to apply to DRF. And if, you know, there'll be no money there for Green Lab if that happens.
They could apply to DRF.
That's right.
No, well, you've already spoken, Alex. Hold on.
Question.
Question of?
Yeah, well, later on in this report, we're also looking at potentially allocating money from the 24-25 discretionary response fund to other projects. So that's that money that we're putting aside now is already potentially being dipped into, is that correct?
So, sorry, I just want to, that we will probably have, provided that the council allows us to, right? If the council allows us to, councillors, $5,000 to $8,000 of carry forward from this current year. So that means essentially that solves our problem. But that means that the councillors need to support the carry forward from this year's allocation. Okay, so does that address your concern?
Yep.
Yeah, but not the question though. My question was, in terms of on the agenda, if we're looking at item 6, and the discretionary response fund board projects, they are coming out of any money we allocate at this meeting, or is this from last?
So those board projects, so the figures that you'll see at the top of the table, that takes into account what's recommended for the board projects.
Oh, okay, so then that's after that.
Correct, because we need to establish your DRF and then it comes from.
All right, so in that, okay, coming back to the question, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I just had one more thing to say. I think we're kind of forgetting the amount of work that those 4 people over there did and the rest of the team in putting this together. You know, they don't do this glibly. They spend a hell of a lot of time investigating these organisations and they're close to them. They're a lot closer than we will ever be to these organisations. And I know conflict of interest. Yeah, I know we have our particular idiosyncratic kind of desires to support groups that we think are doing good work. But at the end of the day, these people have been through this, they've poured over it, they've made recommendations. It's not perfect, there's not as much as we'd like to give. And I actually think the work that they've done is sterling. And I would be absolutely happy to go with the staff recommendation on this, you know, recognising that they've been much closer to these organisations than we are. And I'd be quite happy to accept what they've done on the basis of the fact that they are so much closer to this than we are. But we, you know, we're elected representatives. We want to put our stamp on it. We want to put our personal thoughts on it. But I'm actually quite happy with the work that they've done, and I'm happy with their recommendations. And I would be happy if we just left it as it is and didn't tinker with it anymore and dealt with it on that basis.
You mean as originally proposed?
I feel like the work's been done.
All right, so I'm going to suggest that someone move a motion. It sounded like you might have been foreshadowing something. Jackie.
I'm just clarifying with Kelly, he wants us to write off the hour and a half that we've spent working on this. Is that what you're suggesting?
I am, because that pales.
Why don't we suggest that at 3:30?
It pales in comparison to the work that they've put in over months and months to wrangle this together. So our running our eyes over it for an hour and a half pales in comparison to the amount of work that's already been put in by staff they've come to some really sensible conclusions. They've made the hard choices. And we've read through the material. We've got our little idiosyncratic ideas about what might be best, but I feel that the work's been done, and I'm happy to.
So why don't we come to
move
some
on
other
what we
project?
got.
Hold on, order, please. Order, look, do I have to be on my feet? This will be the first time on this board.
It'd be cool to watch.
Well, I've stood up before, it's not that exciting. Can we not interrupt each other and just let each other finish what we're going to say? I think you've made your point though. If we're going to have a debate, we're going to do it properly and not just an argument. I want to have a
We're not
resolution.
Parliament, are we?
No, I would like to have a.
No, we're currently obsolete.
Terrible today. Let's have a resolution on a motion on the floor to have debate. Is this a question or?
This is helpful before we do that.
Ooh,
It's helpful.
yeah,
For the proposal of $1,000 increase to the tennis club, reducing that to 500. An increase.
I want.
Burwood Tennis Club. So it was proposed as $1,000 increase. But change that to an increase of only $500.
Thanks, Greg.
So just
Anyone else?
1,500, yeah?
yeah.
Would cost up another $500.
Do we have any other helpful suggestions?
Before we do the motion.
Let's hear it from some
Yeah.
other ward.
Sorry. I was going to suggest to pay for the $500 increase from the athletics club, that we take off $250 from each of the other clubs that were here, just like where they listed. That just want some new balls. One was the cricket club, or one was the netball club that wanted new equipment.
So 250 from,
Each of those ones and put it onto the athletics club. Yeah, just because they just want basic things covered, not new equipment.
Can we do one at a time, please? So the,
first, yeah, so name the,
So minus $250 from the cricket club,
which cricket club?
New Brighton Cricket Club.
Okay,
And
just hold
minus,
on,
where's the others agree?
next,
next one.
And minus $250 from the netball club. And adding 500 to the athletics club.
Have you
So that,
already done that?
well, that's what I asked
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
at first,
All right.
but that just would cover that cost.
okay.
But that's if everyone can agree to that.
Yes, I don't have a problem with that.
About the process. At what point are we deciding whether the split between the DRF and the, because that kind of.
Well, what
there's so many
happens?
different options at the moment. I'm
Yeah,
not quite
so
sure.
what we're doing is we are deciding, we have to decide how much of, so if we are over our allocation, that means we are by default, we are choosing to take whatever is over from the DRF. So when we vote on the resolution for allocating all of this stuff, that's when we make this.
Around where it comes from.
Because at the moment we have one big pool.
Yeah.
And then we're choosing to cut it here or here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we have any other helpful suggestions?
I don't know if that was helpful.
Well, we've just,
Reduce it by 500.
yeah.
So that we,
1,000.
by 1,000. So in the space of a few minutes, we've just reduced.
Yeah, but was it a good idea? Because they'll come to DRF and say we've got enough for our balls now.
Well, but we don't have to agree to that.
I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
So you're moving the staff recommendation?
Yep.
All right, do we have a second? Do we have a seconder for the staff recommendation? We have no seconder.
Wow.
Wow. In that case.
Can't look them in the eye.
Make a movement. I'd like to move that $1,000 from.
Oh, no, this is not a resolution. We're like, so are you moving a
I'm
resolution?
moving.
Okay, you tell me what it is.
What did we take the $1,000 off? Sorry, it was $500. What was it off?
Tennis club.
No, well, that $500 I just took off went on to the athletics club, so it's nil.
We're not doing the suggestions by resolution.
Okay.
It's a clumsy way.
I'm proposing that we take 5,000 off BPT and put $6,750 from DRF.
So what you're doing is effectively moving all what we've discussed, and you are, the last bit is reducing the BCCT to 5,000, and and so then the rest will come out of DRF by default. Yep. So
just to clarify for you, Chair, that's gone down to 5,750 from the DRF rather than the 6 because of the tweaks that Greg wanted to make to his original suggestion. Okay.
This is very helpful. So you have a
So
seconder.
let's look at the.
Okay, we'll just let Cindy clarify for us.
Back down to 5,000. Sorry.
You reduce that DRF.
So then let me just minus that by 5,750. So that takes your DRF 39,555.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a seconder, which is about Celeste.
So that was just.
So that's moved and seconded. All right. So it's
I just want to clarify for a minute.
hold on. Question for clarification?
Just how much do we normally have? You know, what's the average we normally have in DRF at the beginning?
We got 80
Last year and the year before.
About 80?
I think it was 80.
It was about 70.
70, and we're looking at 30,000 less?
Yeah,
So
but we'll get another 5,000 to 8,000.
Well, that's not guaranteed though.
Well, there's no guarantee.
Through the chair, so the process with the DRF, so it's not a council, and so the council made a resolution a number of years ago around the carry forwards. So that was done. The bit that needs to be confirmed is what the actual amount is. So what finance do is they go through, because we set up a number of, the next report, we'll be doing this, setting up a number of pots of funds for your board projects, so like your Garden Pride Awards, all of that stuff. That all collapses back to the DRF, but what finance need to do is figure out what's left in all of those pots. My rough calculation, which you can't confirm for certain, is around 5,000 to 8,000. So that will boost up, and that's the same as happened last year. I think we ended up at about 55,000 to 60,000 as a recommended DRF, and then you've got another chunk on top of that.
So just to clarify, we've got about 70 and we've got 8 remaining, roughly.
Very right.
Right? So that means we actually allocated 62,000 out of DRF last year, and we're looking at putting $23,000 less into DRF this year. And yes, I know that this motion only actually reduces it by 6,000, but it's already reduced by 14. Right? So we're reducing it by 30%. I can't remember, but it's quite a big chunk that we're actually starting out with compared to last year. And I'm just flagging that as a concern.
Yeah. So any questions for clarification? No. Okay. We're in debate now. So as a mover, Tim, do you want to speak to it?
No.
And then Celeste, do you want to speak?
I mean, I think it just simplifies things a little bit. At the end of the day, that's not an ideal situation. It's a low amount. And I think if actually we were worried about that, someone's previously commented, we'd look at all the groups. And that was going back to my comment at the start, that we're massively oversubscribed. So one way or the other, we're going to be short. I'd like to see us review who and how we're funding, so we could be quite strategic and agree across the ward areas what the priorities are, because I feel like we're being stretched really thin at the moment. So we're getting into these really impossible situations where everyone's getting frustrated, and understandably so, but we're all trying to do the right thing. So I just think this is a pretty simple and clean compromise, and I think if we can look at the process for the next round, it'll be a bit easier on staff and also us. So that would be my recommendation.
Alex.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that there's a balance here, but in my opinion, we haven't struck that balance. We don't know when the rainy day is going to come, and looking at it right now, there's not going to be much money when it does. No point building a house, leaving money aside to do the roof, and then when it rains, not having enough money to do the roof. and the whole house is done. But look, I'm really concerned about this. I'm also concerned about people saying that we should just follow staff advice, but it seems to be the first time this term that they say that. But look, at the end of the day, it's a board decision. I'm going to vote against it. But
all right then. So I just want to, with the agreement of the mover and seconder, I just want to add to the resolution, if you don't mind, that the board requests that staff worked with groups to understand work with groups to understand prior to the next funding round their policies and procedure on multicultural, rainbow and alcohol and other drugs.
And working with children.
And working with children and young people.
I don't want to vote against that, but I want to vote against the first part.
Yeah.
That's not really,
Well, yeah.
they're two substantially different.
No, well, no, because we're voting on all of it. We're voting on, so you really need to raise a point of order there.
Point of order. I think it's really substantially different.
I need to, so I need to take some advice.
Yes, I think because this reflects your strengthening communities round, and you want it to inform you want this work done in time for the next one. This is the right place. You don't really have another report that makes sense to do this with.
So what I can.
Yeah, so you could note that Alex or whoever, votes against 1 to 5 or something. That could be noted. If that's
so
helpful.
you can put a noting provision in rather than, because we have to move it as part of the bit that we're dealing with.
And if it's voted down,
so we can note
that can be added to the next.
Yeah, excellent. So if you note that, if we can note that, like Alex Hewson supported number 6.
Yes, that's right.
Then you can do that. But it's going to be one resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a question?
It is a question. It's just in terms of reviewing the process. I understand there is a request to do it across council, but I'm not clear on what that request will cover. So I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to review this funding process at a more local level, because there's such a lot of demand for our ward area.
But the because it's one strengthening communities fund, there'll be one, we will be able to input it into this community boards.
I would like us to, as a board, work out and signal clearer in advance of this funding coming to us, recommendations coming to us, what we as a board see as a priority across the ward area, so that we can prioritise funding for those organisations.
That's a separate thing that we can do next and before next time.
In which case, can we add it as a resolution?
Just to quickly comment on that, and sorry, because I was helping Alex, but from what I gather from what you're suggesting, it might be better to either add a noting provision or a request to council around sort of the a review of and I understand a review should be happening of the overall funding processes, because what you've got to be mindful of is there's a criteria or process for strengthening communities overall, and that sits for Metro as well as the boards. So the boards don't have a sort of discrete process, and one of the things we've got to be careful of is those groups are applying to that criteria. We're mindful when we assess them in terms of what strategies they need, and that includes the board plan. So we do have that in mind, and you will have seen on some of the applications that we might have boosted them up a little because they do align with the board plan. So we have that in mind, and I think there's definitely some work we can do. But if you're looking at the overall criteria, that's better at a metropolitan level.
So maybe just a noting provision.
But we could be an influence on that, can't we, as a board?
You should. Well,
we should be
out of turn.
We should be.
You should be.
Yeah. So we can note that the board would like to input into the funding review.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Alex, is that a question?
Yeah, I'd like to request under the standing orders that rather Alex Hewison voting against 1 to 5. Under standing order, sorry, I can't find the number, it states that the chairperson may order words used and objected to by any member to be recorded in the minutes. I would just like it noted that I do not support, and I can send Cindy this afterwards, leaving so little money in the DRF. If I know anything else, it makes it sound like I'm not supporting giving money to these groups. So I would like those, if I can send them to you afterwards and you note them, that's within your delegation as the chair. Very minimal words.
I would appreciate this not being used often, but okay.
Can I have them by 11 o'clock tomorrow morning?
You can have them by Joe. Is that, sorry, is this the end of questions?
I don't know. It might be the start of something.
Because what we had is by agreement of the mover and seconder, we now have a motion that's
So
amended.
he's got the motion that he's going to take the money away from BCCT, is that right?
5,000.
5,000
Yeah,
from
yeah,
that.
so the
So
motion
is there anyone on board opposed to that?
there is, but this is, we're in debate, so you're just wanting to clarify really the way that you, because you're asking it of another member, the way that you would get that is in from the debate. At the moment, we have a motion.
I'm just wondering if anyone else around the table is thinking that way before we go ahead and do this.
Well, it's, we already have to do it because it's already on the table. So we've Celeste has spoken to the motion. Was that, or did you ask a question?
I spoke to it and then I think.
Spoke to it and then,
against
okay,
it,
so
should we just vote?
we're back in debate. So if anybody else wants to speak for or against the motion, it's now time.
I'll speak against it. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed. I felt the staff recommendation was good. And Celeste mentioned that it simplifies things. It does simplify things if you just take it off one organisation and another ward, instead of looking at your own ward. And I'm a bit disappointed that nobody actually offered up other savings other than Greg. Oh, well, actually, yeah, there was one. Because that would have been a good way to approach it, actually. Let's look at the other organisations in our area and take a little bit off them, but you've done it mostly from one area, so that's why I disagree with that. Yeah, and so I find it a wee bit disappointing. I feel like the staff put in a lot of work, and they are a lot closer to this than we are. But it seems to me that politics is at play. So it is democracy. I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah.
In terms of
Jackie.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
I'll let you off the hook and
Withdraw.
say that I think that.
You need to withdraw that.
I withdraw.
You guys finished?
Well, I'm
You're
currently,
adjudicating?
I'm adjudicating.
Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, it is democracy and I'm happy to go with that, but I'll be voting against this.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the lines of Kelly, like it's a big amount to take from one group and we could have actually taken maybe $1,000 from this and this and this to actually cover that, but I am happy with the portion of the DRF that we're putting forward. But to take $5 grand from one group, I think is actually quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess we're, I'll support the motion, but I'm reliant on all of us to do our bits to try and balance the funding, and we can only do so much from the chair. One way that I was just thinking about this process, and we're not going to redo it for the next year, where we'll all be on tenterhooks because you know what year it is. That what I am going to flag now is what I think we should do is and the staff do heaps of work and they try and balance it from their perspective. At the end of the day, we have to make a decision to allocate the resources because that's our job and that's why we're elected. But what I think would be good to do next time is we get the staff recommendation and then we reduce, at the beginning of our conversation, we reduce every single line by 20%. And then we work to allocate that money. And so we might allocate that money over or above, but we start with a pool of funding to allocate. Or we ask staff to leave more funding in the allocation for us to play with.
It's good math.
Yeah, that's a smart way. to do it.
In that way, particularly in an election year, we might find it a little bit easier process. Yeah, so I'm just flagging that. Look, I could have managed this a bit better, but I think that we've come to a solution that is, although it's not ideal, we simply don't have enough money, and we have too many people, too many organisations, and some organisations in a really good position. They're connected to other bodies that have quite a substantial amount of money and are well resourced, and it would be good to have a clear sense of the financial viability of some of those bigger organisations if we're going to be taking needs seriously. So with that, unless there's anybody else who hasn't spoken wishes to speak, Greg.
Yeah, I'll be voting against this. Part of the reason being where the proposed money is looking to come from, the BCCT. They have around 600 participants listed in their database, and yet we're looking at the Social Services Council of Decile Christchurch with around 500 participants receiving 10 times the amount that we're reducing it to. So for my mind, I would have seen it coming from a different place if we were to do that. So that's the reason I'll be voting against it.
All right, well, the motion will be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
I think we may have to raise hands here. Is it 4-4? So that means we have to have another motion because it doesn't pass.
Who voted aye?
Oh,
I said aye.
Changed your mind from
all
your
the-
vote?
yeah,
Okay, I'll
Based
do-
on the notice.
So all those in favour say aye. Raise your hands.
I'm probably taking 10 of them.
And
So what was the question?
All those in favour say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, that means we need an amended motion. In that case, can I have some suggestions from? So, all right, one person at a time. So Kelly had his hand up first, and then Greg, and then Celeste.
I like your brilliant idea of reducing all the.
That's not a viable option right now,
No.
because then we have to, it's actually impossible because staff will need to go home.
Yeah, we have to finish it today.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't have a viable option. Other than to recommend stuff and option again.
Well, that didn't pass either, so, and because it's the same motion, you can't, yeah.
So just to clarify, before we start making any more suggestions, is BCCT goes back to 10 pending our
So
conversation?
what I suggest is that the numbers remain the same right now, and we amend it from what was proposed, because otherwise we have to go back and remember everything. So,
I was just wondering.
oh, no, sorry, one at a time. Greg, have you finished?
I started yet.
Yeah. Greg, do you have and then Tim?
Yeah, so my suggestion for it is the 5,000 be reinstated to the BCCT and 10,000 come out of the Social Service Council for the Decile of Christchurch. And that way there's a $5,000 less impact on the DRF.
But proportionately, how much is that? So,
16%.
So you're saying from that 70,000, so from that 59, sorry, you're suggesting taking 10?
Yes.
So you're lifting the BCCT to
Back to 10.
back to 10.
And that will mean there's 5,000
Yeah.
change between those,
How about
and then 5,000 less that'll come out of the DRF.
how about BCCT up 3, so up to 8, and that one down 5.
I support that.
I'll support that.
Yep.
That means we need to find 3,750.
From the DRF.
I did-
One at a time. So we've made a little change, because can I get a sense, is everybody comfortable with that? Yep. Is anybody not? All right, would someone like to move that as a resolution? Moved by Jackie. Huh? What do you mean?
You won't know that until it's
No,
moved.
no.
I like the noting provision I used for last one, also to be used for this one as a point of
Yeah,
order.
so everything's the same as the last resolution, the one that didn't pass. But this time, and including around the policies, including the noting provision around Alex. So this has been moved by Jackie, seconded by Celeste. I don't think we need another debate, but I'll put it to the mover. You don't say anything? Does anybody want to?
The other,
What?
the other thing I did mention earlier was like taking a little bit of the sticks, but you're not, no one supports that.
Oh.
We've got something on the table, but I'm just.
Well, we have a resolution that's been moved and seconded. Yeah, so you can move an amendment if you want to.
It doesn't need a.
No, not an amendment. So if without the agreement, all right, everybody, quiet please. If it doesn't have the agreement of the mover and seconder, then it goes to an amendment process. So if you want to make a change to it, because the mover and seconder don't, seconder does, sorry, the mover doesn't, but the seconder doesn't. So if you want to change it, you need to move an amendment to the substantive. Do you want to do that?
No. Well, I've moved to, how much are we short?
3.5.
3.5. And what have they got for you? 8. Take 1,000 off them?
So you're moving an amendment to this motion that we reduce Sticks Living Laboratory by 1,000 and seconded by Kelly. All right. Do you want to speak to that? So this is an amendment. Kelly?
Yeah, I think it's a good compromise. I think it's far better than what we had before, and I totally agree with it.
So this is the amendment. Yeah. So that's so you sound like you're speaking to the substantive there, that's all. Do we have anyone else wish to speak to this?
Can I just clarify for your debate? So if that amendment goes through, that's 2,750.
Yeah.
Out of your DRF, so
That's right. Just so everyone's clear that if this amendment passed, the substantive would be for 2,000, would mean that 2,750 needs to come out of the DRF. You want to speak?
Yeah, I'll be voting against this. I mean, I'm not sure if everyone visited with us or not, but when we visited the Puharakiki Sticks network, they do such amazing work. And I'm not saying any other group doesn't. I think we all agree they do amazing work. But the work that they do, the volunteers that they get in across the city and our wards is just phenomenal. I wouldn't support taking away 1,000 because 1,000 would go a really long way towards volunteer costs or some of the other projects that they got listed here for that application.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't support this amendment either. But yeah, for the reasons already stated. So I'll put that amendment now. So all those in favour of the amendment, which is reducing that by $1,000, say aye.
Aye.
Can we raise hands, please, just so. So it's 4-4. So that's amendment is lost because that's the status quo. So that means that we're back to the substantive. Back to the substantive. So we have a mover in Jackie. Did you want to speak to the substantive?
No, I've seen.
Okay, and a seconder for Celeste. Do you want to speak to it?
I mean, I think at this point it's just about ending the meeting, really, isn't it? No, sorry. I think it was a great suggestion by Greg. I appreciate that you've being very pragmatic about how you approach everything, and I just think this is a reasonable way forward, so thank you for suggesting it.
Yeah, anybody else wants to speak? Well, I do want to say, yeah, appreciate the contribution of everyone actually, and the fact that we've had a split votes, but managed to deal with it in a way that, you know, we've got a little bit chaotic, but still good natured, and we're all kind of still smiling. So with that, the motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
My God.
Carried.
Easy.
Seriously, like it says, it is really cool that we can do this in the way that we do it. We don't all agree with each other, but we get down to it and we go through a vote, and that's how it should be. So thank you very much.
There'll be no wars if we don't do this.
Well, that's the whole point of democracy.
And I'm just sipping up some business to you both.
Yeah. Thank you. So now we've just got the DRF.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So these are
I'm going home.
No. So these are all the projects. You have all seen them. In this instance, I'm happy to move the staff recommendation. Seconded by Joe. Do we have any debate? No. Well, I will just say that I'm very grateful for all your work and for the way that you go about it. And I know that we have made changes, and that's no reflection on your work. You did a great job of your job, and I don't know how well we've done our job, but as I said before, I think the way that we've done it, I'm really pleased with, and it's awesome that we get to support really cool events and also really amazing community groups, and it'd be awesome if we were able to do more of it. So with that being said, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right. We have elected members information exchange, but I'm going to suggest that did you want me to note some more words? No. You don't. Okay. I don't think anybody has anything to share for elected members information exchange. No. Okay then. Well, if you'd like to join me, our current kid.